Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to the Monday, June 12th, 2017 edition of VR News. Lots of E3 stuff to talk about, so let's jump right in. I want to start with Doom VFR. Now, when the trailer was live, the reveal trailer for this, I was just looking at the game and thinking, wow, they borrowed the assets or a lot of the assets from the 2016 Doom, but it's a new campaign essentially from the ground up for VR. The last thing I was thinking about was locomotion. One of the viewers to the channel tweeted me, M. Vicleco, and pointed out that it was only going to be teleportation based. Now, when I was watching it, like I said, probably the bias, even though it wasn't commercial, I'd played Doom 3 VR, beaten it, and teleportation and smooth worked fine on that. So I just kind of assumed they would both be there. In fact, when we talked at the beginning of last year about hoping that devs would ultimately offer multiple forms of teleportation or locomotion, right? Or at the very least, teleportation and then some type of smooth offering, it wasn't immediately reality, but as the year went on, it became pretty much the status quo. So yeah, with Doom VFR, I just kind of assumed that. He pointed out that wasn't the case. Did some research. He's right. It is teleportation based, but here's why it doesn't bother me as much as you'd think, right? Raw Data, still one of my favorite games in VR, period. Still in the top 3. Teleportation in that game worked because it felt like it was an integral mechanic to the game, right? It was designed with that in mind, and the feeling, that sprint dash just worked. Even though I don't get motion sickness, etc. Budget Cut's another example, and there's others, right? Where teleportation just works. But again, whether you get sick or not, there are people who do. And having 2 forms, I was okay with that. So with Doom only having teleportation, my first question would be, is it an integral part of the gameplay mechanics? Did they write it with teleportation in mind? If they did, it might not be that bad, right? I'll at least try it before I pass final judgment, is what I'm trying to say. Is it too late for them to add smooth locomotion? Probably not. We've seen lots of companies, Raw Data as an example again, right, of doing that. And I'll still play it teleportation just because it feels right to me to play it that way. So hopefully there's multiple at some point. I'm still going to get it, still going to play it as a standalone game. I'll give it that benefit of the doubt and at least give it a shot. And then let's talk about it again, because we know it's $29 US, fourth quarter, so October, November, December. We got quite a bit of time before it's a reality. Next game, let's talk Fallout 4 VR. Contrary to Doom, and those of you who said the leaks weren't correct, you turned out to be correct. The parts of the leak that were correct, let's face it, were the obvious ones to begin with, right? The Fallout 4 VR, for example. So we know the price for that, $59.99 US, which was a lot higher than I thought. But I'm still okay with that because if I look, and don't even get me started on their content creator thing, right? I know it doesn't overlap with mods are still free, and these are kind of like not modding for dummies, but it's a surefire way to be able to mod and have everything work, not have to prioritize or get mod loaders. I get all of that, but separate discussion, right? Let's stick to Fallout 4 VR. Do I think that price tag is too high? It's higher than I thought it would be, but ultimately, no. Bethesda is one of those companies doing a lot more for VR than most, right? I mean, just look at E3's presser and what they're doing with VR comparatively. I think there's no comparison, excuse the pun, between the two. So I don't mind supporting that. And my understanding based on this latest trailer and then the chatting at E3 is you can use mods with it, which is awesome because that will extend its life considerably. If you look at the hours I played on Skyrim, for example, or Oblivion, right? Thousands for that initial $60. So I got no problem with that and cannot wait until October. And then let's talk about Transference, which Ubisoft Montreal and developer SpectraVision developed. And this one looks pretty creepy, pretty spooky. When it started with that footage, I was just getting flashbacks to the early 90s with CD-ROMs where everybody wanted real life footage in their games, and it just didn't work very well, right? But here it's meant as part of the narrative to kind of get you into the world, doubt your sanity, etc. There's going to be puzzles to solve, and you're exploring a tale, as they put it, of a man's obsession, which you'll explore through digitally recreated memories, solving puzzles, featuring branching narrative, and that's about what they know about the game so far. So definitely sounds intriguing. Would love to know more about it. All right, speaking of raw data, look, the gameplay, yes, and I just said it this video, one of my favorite games. But what I like about raw data so much, what appealed to me from day one, was the fact that they were so damn polished. Yes, it was early access, but honestly, after they added the first two classes, other than the initial, I stopped thinking of it as an early access game. I just thought of it as a full game. And this was a reminder that it is still early access, and yet they're still adding more. So what are we going to get? Well, we're going to get a PvP mode. Admittedly, it seems to shine best when it's co-op, but you got me curious. I'll try the PvP. We'll see what it's like. Another hero class. Support for PlayStation. So quite a bit coming, and they hope to do this leaving early access formally September of this year. So very cool. Hats off to them for just, again, Survios releasing such an awesome, polished VR game when you did, really instilling people's confidence that you bet VR can look good, right? So if you remember a lot of the other stuff around, it wasn't quite as polished as raw data was. So hats off to Survios for sure. All right, so back to E3. We hear from Intel, Oculus, and ESL that they want to launch an eSports league called Challenger League with $200,000 in pooled prize money up for grabs, right? They got a couple of games. The first one, The Unspoken, we know about that one already. But what I loved about the video for it was The Unspoken one. There's an old Black Sabbath song called Symptom of the Universe, and it just kept feeling like a lead-in to that song, right? Like it was getting ready to go there and didn't. It was just a familiar vibe, what can I say? But yeah, The Unspoken, and then the second game is going to be Echo Arena, which is the multiplayer Lone Echo kind of offshoot. So those two games. Now, if you want to know of a model, right? If you're thinking, wow, this just probably won't work in 2017, who's going to watch competitive esports or people playing video games? Well, we know it happens on Twitch, but well before it happened on Twitch and other streaming offerings, it happened in South Korea. And when I say it happened, holy hell did it happen. So in South Korea, StarCraft was probably more popular there than any other place in the world. And by the late 90s had really taken off. And broadcasters starting to get involved, thinking, how can we capitalize on this and make a game like StarCraft even bigger? Well, what if we make a TV channel dedicated to StarCraft? It sounds absolutely ludicrous in 2017. It would have sounded way more ludicrous in 2000, but that's exactly what they did. And it was successful, right? An entire network, OGN, I believe, is the network. It does way more than StarCraft now. It's got eSports leagues, Star League, Pro League, League of Legends League. Get this, live matches for some of these events, like StarCraft tournaments, upwards of 50,000 plus fans. We're talking U.S. college football, Premier League attendance numbers. These are huge. Like, these are huge numbers. And they were pulling that off 17 years ago. TV ratings on OGN often in South Korea surpass professional sports offerings. So yeah, if you want a model of where it's worked, a proven track record of esports working, look no further than South Korea, probably the model for that. You could get into online RPGs as well. They do that pretty good too. So yeah, the precedent would probably be South Korea. Would it work here in the West? I'm not sure. I'm not willing to condemn it. I'd like to see what they can come up with and how that looks, right? Because we have lots, like I said, through Twitch, YouTube has all kinds of events. It's just not quite as formal as Intel is going to make it, right? Which is more akin to what they're doing in South Korea. All right, next, Microsoft. Nothing VR on Scorpio, but there is some Scorpio stuff. I'm going to touch on it. It's not pure VR, but it is related. First of all, the name change. Project Scorpio sounded okay. It sounded pretty damn good. But go figure, Microsoft had to work the Xbox name into there, and we come up with Xbox One X. I love what the author said. It's like they purposely tried to make a tongue twister, right? So it's Xbox One X, $499 US, and it's going to be coming worldwide November 7th of 2017. So very much like Sony did with the PS4 Pro, it's going to join the family. It's not meant to replace the Xbox One. Next news story, IMAX VR, a hands-on with author Kenneth Seward Jr. He from Upload VR, he went to the New York IMAX VR facility. This is the second one after LA, and just really cool experience. And I loved his description. Here it goes. Like the first, this center features pods or small rooms housing state-of-the-art technology, offering immersive content. HTC Vive sets are connected to wires held overhead, almost like the pole-mounted contacts on bumper cars. While haptic vests and Vive controllers adorn the walls, some even offer motion chairs and props, particularly one made to look like the side of a helicopter. It's like a mini arcade dedicated to VR experiences held within a movie theater. And this really does bring it full circle. It offers the type of themed experience we're seeing in Asian VR arcades that we aren't seeing here in North American ones and European ones. I love that aspect. I like the themed idea. But what I also like about it is the versatility, right? The variety that you're getting. He also describes a game, and this is specific for the platform, called Raising a Ruckus. So it's an animated VR, animated short. You sit in as one of the twin characters, right? So you can tell there's the replay value there. Play as one twin. You're probably going to want to see the other, their take on it, because the viewpoints are different enough. It's a new, fresh experience. So they basically travel to different worlds, these twins, via their dog Ruckus. Thus, the name Raising a Ruckus. Sounded pretty cool. And like I mentioned the other day, that arcade formula front and center. All right, that's it, guys, for the VR news coming out of E3 today. There's probably going to be some more tomorrow. Can't wait, guys. Cheers.